Oh, hey there.
You keep starting and I'm not ready. Oh, hey there.
Why aren't you ready?
I had to burp. And unlike
At least
you.
it's not me this time.
Well, it's early.
Haven't had bubbles.
My bubbles. So this is, we just want to say, this is the second part to...
We are the history buffoons too.
Well,
we're the history buffoons. I'm Kate. That's Bradley.
Let's do this over.
No, this is great. This is gold.
This is podcast gold. We are the history buffoons. I'm Bradley. That is Kate over there. Sorry, I didn't mean to take your thunder on saying I am Kate. But thank you for listening to us, and we're about to finish our story on
Elizabeth Bathory.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you have not listened to part 1 yet,
yes,
that is Elizabeth's pretty much backstory of like how she came to be who she is. Part 2, we delve a little bit deeper into her character.
Yeah.
A little bit deeper.
A lot of bit deeper.
A lot of bit, yeah.
We try and uncover some of the history portions of what's real and what's not in terms of her mystique throughout history because of being considered the Blood Countess. And hope you learned something about good old Elizabeth.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Enjoy.
Okay, so what I said about the two-parter, that's bullshit. We're going to keep going.
Am I leaving that in?
I don't fucking care. Whatever happens, happens. Okay. So.
Whatever happens,
when
happens.
he got back from war.
Yes.
The story goes.
Okay.
That he taught Elizabeth.
The art of war.
The art of torture.
Yeah. So, does that seem kind of weird? It's like, all right, I'm out fighting our enemies. Get a little taste for, a little lust for
blood.
Fucking these people up.
Blood.
And
bowels.
Well, and apparently dodgeball. And it's like, you know what a good idea is? I'm going to go back and teach my wife this. I'm going to
teach my wife my ways.
What the fuck?
Well, he gave her tips on how to punish their servants.
I'm guessing he had a real fucking inkling for this. Like, he really enjoyed it. Because you wouldn't come back and teach your wife this shit unless you really fucking enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's really creepy.
Yeah.
But guess what? One of the ways that one of the pieces of torture that he taught her was covering a girl in... Okay, let's do a spoiler alert or like a trigger warning. Like, some of this can get pretty grotesque here. So
yes. If you have any aversion to it, well, skip ahead or
let's
something.
do some 18 plus here, people. Okay.
Well, I do mark it as explicit. So
this is true.
Yeah.
So he would cover a girl in honey.
Yeah.
And leave her for the ants.
That is it. Like, would he like tie her down so that she couldn't move? Because like, why wouldn't you just get up and run away from the ants?
I'm assuming she doesn't have that capability.
Well, you would hope, but you just said she covered.
And then they would like soak like paper in oil and stuff it between her toes and set those on
feet
fire.
On fire.
Oh.
Yeah, that I mean, feet are gross to begin with. Those are got to be really raunchy.
So Elizabeth picked up some of these habits.
Well, yeah, she apparently liked it too.
But get this.
Okay.
The really bad stuff, she wasn't accused of until after she died.
Right.
Like,
it's kind of like
letting the wind out of the sails.
Pope Formosus. Let's not.
Formosus, look at that drawback.
Bringing it back. It's like, you know what? We're not going to accuse you till you're dead.
Yes.
Fucking clowns.
If you don't know, Pope Formosus was an origin of weird story.
Yeah.
Where they put a dead pope on trial.
Sure did. Literally put him on trial in his throne.
In his throne. Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay. So it wasn't that shocking at the time for servants to be treated this way.
Well, no, because they were literally property of...
It was a master-servant relationship, super violent.
Yep.
And There is a story of a servant pulling her hair while she was being brushed.
Oh, dear.
And she turned around and hit her servant, but that was pretty normal.
Yeah, but she didn't light shit between her toes.
Well, not in this story.
Well, not yet, at least.
Plus, as a noble, she can basically do whatever she wants.
Well, yeah, she's in charge.
She could kill a servant, and she would literally just pay a fine to the family, and that's it.
Yeah, which is wild.
And she was wealthy AF, so.
Yeah.
So when they finally did charge Elizabeth with crimes, it wasn't about the servants.
No.
It was about killing noble kids.
Okay.
And that was a much bigger deal.
Well, yeah, because they're nobles.
Yes, and that's not to say she wasn't cruel to her servants. It was just harder to prove those stories since there's not a lot of evidence.
Well, and not only that is obviously the nobles are going to be a lot more watched or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas these servants and common folk, or whatever you want to call them, nobody fucking knows.
No. And she got a kick out of it. She actually enjoyed causing this pain.
Yeah.
And there's the story about her husband giving her a black claw or something out of a dragon myth to scratch up her victims.
Sure.
They said that she also, this is icky, push needles under the servant's fingernails.
Oh, that just gives me the willies. I don't like thinking about that stuff.
Poke underneath your fingernail. Just shove it in there.
Get in there nice and deep like.
That is dodgeball.
Bringing it back.
There's even a story that she broke a servant's arm. It sounded like she
I would rather have my arm broken than shit shoved under my fingernails. I'd rather have you break both my arms than one fingernail gets something shoved under. Fuck that. Good Lord. That seems like a fucking holiday compared to the fingernail thing.
Yes. So, of course, they couldn't just blame her for these things. They had to drag other people into it.
Yeah. Of course.
So there were rumors that she'd learned Satanism and witchcraft from family members as a kid. And they didn't charge her with witchcraft like they did with other rebellious women.
Yeah.
They went straight for torture and murder.
Oh.
So there was a woman named Anna Darvolia.
There's a lot of people named Anna in this story.
There's two, okay?
There's three.
There's the mother.
And you named another Anna, and now you named a third.
Who's the other Anna?
I don't recall.
Was it her daughter?
Yes.
Was there a daughter Anna? I don't remember.
I think that sounds right. Yes, that sounds right.
I don't know. I'm lost now.
I don't know. That's why I said don't worry about it, but either way.
So, this woman, Anna, they called her Darvulia.
Darvulia?
Yes.
What does that mean?
She was... I don't know.
Was that not part of your research?
So her name is Anna Darvoila. Darvoila.
Voila.
Voila. But they shortened it to Darvulia.
Sure.
I don't know.
That's fine.
But, I mean, Elizabeth has Betty, Elizabeth, Eliza, Liz, Libby, Beth. There's so many. Okay, anyway.
Iterations, yes.
Darvulia was Elizabeth's right-hand woman.
Oh.
She was her confidant.
Do we know who her left-hand woman was?
Fuck off. People said that Darvulia taught Elizabeth everything she knew about torture and showed other servants how to help. So you got one story where the husband's teaching her these things, and then you've got another story of Darvulia teaching her all these things. So the common denominator is Elizabeth knows how to do these things.
Right. Well, okay. Why did they think this Darvulia person taught her? Because
after Darvulia showed up, Elizabeth got way more brutal.
Oh. What is, if you even have this, the timeline from when she showed up to when husband got back from war? Oof. Is that does that coincide with each other?
So at one point her husband actually gets injured.
Oh.
And is basically bedbound.
Oh dear.
he eventually gets sick and dies of his war injuries.
Oh, really?
So I'm not quite sure of the overlap.
Okay.
But even with Elizabeth knowing some of these torture remedies from her husband, it got so much worse with Darvulia.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So they claimed... So around this time, her husband's health was failing, as I said.
Yeah.
Elizabeth started inviting young girls from lower noble families into her gynoecium.
What's a gynoecium?
It is basically a women's quarters.
Oh.
But they were like completely separate from men. It was a place where women gathered, but it was usually young, unmarried women or girls who would like come in and they would be taught how to, it would be like finishing schools. They would be taught in these gynoeciums how to be proper ladies, manners, dancing, how to run a big house, even learning foreign languages.
Sure.
And
it was basically like a school.
Yeah.
In
exactly.
a way.
But it's in this castle.
Right.
And they called it the gynoecium.
Okay. I never heard that word before.
Yes. I haven't either before the story.
All right.
So... especially in Hungary, since it was stuck between all these powerful countries, knowing German and Hungarian was pretty much a must if you wanted to marry well.
Right.
So this gynoecium was prepared for that.
Yeah, sure.
So they would also learn how to sew, read, play music, and just hang out like Gab folks. Okay. So, gabbing folks.
Did they watch the Real Housewives of like England or something?
They were the Real Housewives of England.
Real Housewives of Hungary.
But Elizabeth, she was the perfect role model. She spoke a bunch of languages, she married well, and she was super intelligent. And she seemed like the ideal person. But the gynoecium was a little bit darker than what people thought. Okay. Do
tell.
So people started saying she was luring these girls to her castles to torture them.
Right.
She had gotten bored of torturing her servants, and she'd run out of local victims.
And she needed more.
Yeah, so she had to use her status and promises of social climbing
to get these people in. Yeah.
Yes, to bring these daughters in.
Sure.
Penny's playing
I
by herself because there's no one else out. So throw the spring. She loves the spring. She's so cute. So these smart, noble women are coming to Elizabeth, right, to be educated.
Yeah.
But what was weird was all the deaths.
Yeah, it's like, how do we account for this?
Girls were dying right and left. And
that's really weird that you said it that way, because most people say left and right.
It's written as left and right.
Normally, when people are dyslexic, they just change letters, not words.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
That's great.
These stories did start spreading about cruelty, starvation, the girls disappearing, showing up with these strange injuries.
Yeah.
So the girls started dying at Elizabeth's place, and she tried to brush it off, saying it was fucking cholera.
Seriously?
Oh, there's 20 women here? It's just cholera. But come on.
Yeah, that seems unlikely, but okay.
The number of bodies are piling up at this churchyard, and priests are constantly being called.
Yeah, like, hey.
People are starting to get suspicious.
What's going on over there in the yard?
Yeah.
In the Harvard yard?
Harvard yard. But while her husband... Fenric was alive. She was pretty...
Can you say husband?
Because I'm trying to combine husband and Fenric together.
I know. That was great.
Husband Fenric.
Husbick.
She was untouchable. Nobody really dared to openly accuse her of anything.
They can't, because they're going to, get fucking killed then.
Yes, but in 1604, Fenric died. And this was his serious leg problems that probably happened from the war.
Yeah. Okay.
He was disabled. They're not quite sure what killed him.
Sure.
But they think that might have an effect.
No, that makes sense. I mean, that's pretty probable.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
So
he left Elizabeth and their kids in the care of Gregory Thurzo. He was a powerful Hungarian guy who was basically like the king's right-hand man.
Okay.
Now, even though he was supposed to look after her and the kids,
he did not.
Thurzo ended up leaving the investigation into Elizabeth's crimes.
He led it?
He led it.
So he was trying to get rid of her, basically.
He was trying to protect her, and then he got involved in someone who wanted to take her over.
Oh, so he got involved with this person who said, hey, I want that spot.
Yes.
Fuck her.
Yes.
Take me.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So Elizabeth was left in charge of all the family's money and the lands because her son, Paul, was just a baby.
Yeah.
But that made her a pretty tempting target. Things really started to ravel in 1602 when the rumors of her crime started to spread like wildfire.
Sure.
But even then, the priests of her estates were getting suspicious.
Oh, you know when the priest finally gets suspicious?
I know. They're all like, wait a minute. This woman and this woman died of cholera?
Yeah.
See, what?
Isn't there like a book or a movie called Love in the Time of Cholera?
Okay, yeah.
I think.
Yeah, sure.
What's up, Penny?
Sure. So Elizabeth was making things real suspicious when these priests would come over to the castle, ask to look at the bodies, and she's like,
what bodies?
You can look at their faces.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. She wouldn't allow any other viewing.
So basically she was trying, whether she was or not, it implied she was hiding things that she did to the bodies.
Yes.
Whether alive or dead, for that matter. That's wild. Okay.
Yes. So before her husband died, and even for a while after, she was pretty much untouchable, thanks to her connection, her wealth.
Right.
But someone finally spoke up. A Lutheran minister named Istvan Magyari.
Okay.
And he publicly accused her both in Hungary and in the Habsburg court in Vienna.
Oh, dear.
So when I first wrote both in Hungary, I was going to say both in the language Hungary and in the German language, but Hungary, the country. But
yes,
these rumors turned into fact.
Non-rumors.
Quote unquote fact.
Yes.
Everyone was saying at the time that she was a serial killer.
Well, I mean, if you boil it down to what
the shoe fits.
They had shoes back then?
What? Yeah.
Sandals?
They're probably mules.
Mules?
Yeah, they're like slip-ons.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Not Nikes?
No.
Oh, shit. Shouldn't wear Air Jordans at the trial?
Probably not.
Oh, shit.
In October 1610, she retreated to an isolated castle in the mountains, probably hoping for the winter storms that would keep her from people getting to her, essentially.
Yeah.
But she was also trying to rally her family for support, especially her cousin Gabriel Bathory, who was Prince of Transylvania. The official investigation kicked off in 1610 when King Matthias II told Gregory Thurzo to investigate.
Said, yo, check this shit out.
And boy, did they find some things.
Well, I mean, yeah.
They collected over 300 witness statements by 1611. 1611.
I don't know if you don't understand the gravity of that.
1611.
1611, that's what's important here. So that's one a day almost. Because you said this started in 1610, right?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Jesus, okay.
But there were definitely political motives behind all of this.
There always is.
Which is why we started off with the deep background.
Correct.
Historians have been arguing for centuries about whether or not she was framed.
Right.
So there are three main theories.
Okay.
Money.
Sure.
Power.
Of course.
Religion.
Always.
So first, money. Elizabeth was super rich.
Yep.
Owned a ton of land.
Yep. Thanks to, what was her husband's name?
Fenric.
Fenric, yeah.
She was a tempting target. She was a widow, which made her a little bit more vulnerable.
Yep. And
Matthias II had a personal reason.
Which is?
Her husband, Fenric, had loaned a ton of money to Matthias' predecessor.
Okay.
And Matthias had inherited his debt.
Oh.
And Elizabeth had like been bugging him about it. She even went to like his castle.
You still owe me some money.
Exactly.
Go knocking on the fucking drawbridge or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
the moat. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
the Oculus or whatever. That's a tourney thing.
That's the tourney thing.
Yeah, the door knocker.
Either way, door knocker. Like Scrooge Marley.
But guess what?
Yeah.
After her arrest, which I'll get to, the debt magically disappeared. Just poof, poof.
How does that happen? It's almost like it was just written off the books.
Oh my gosh. So the second theory is power.
Of course.
The Habsburg wanted to control Transylvania, and the Bathories were a major obstacle.
Sure.
Elizabeth's cousin Sigismund had led a rebellion against them, and their other cousin Gabriel was planning to expand his territory with Elizabeth's support.
Okay.
This is all in Transylvania, right?
Right.
So getting rid of her would help the Habsburgs.
Sure. Makes sense.
So, third reason.
Third theory.
Third theory.
Third theory.
With religion is religion.
Can you say it the other way?
Religion.
Oh, no. All right.
The third theory was religion.
Third theory was religion.
Some people think it was like a Protestant Catholic thing.
Okay.
But that theory is a little bit more shaky. Elizabeth had Catholic relatives, and the first accuser was Lutheran, like that Lutheran priest.
Sure.
He was Lutheran. So Transylvania was also pretty tolerant.
I think I just had a stroke.
At the time.
Okay. Yeah.
So money and power seemed like the stronger motives.
100%. I mean, especially back again, time frame wise, back then, yeah, because they always try to utilize power and connections and so on.
On December 30th, 1610, Thurzo arrested Elizabeth and 5 of her servants.
Okay, because again, I know of her. I'm the one who suggested this topic. I obviously don't know a lot of specifics and such.
Yes.
But
I have to pee.
Let's take a break.
But what?
But if I want to say I remember reading something at one point in my life about her that obviously she was the main person for this.
Yes.
But weren't a lot of her servants implicated in what?
Yes.
Okay. So that's what I thought because they helped her chorus the people in blah, 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 whatever.
Yes.
So, okay. So I am on the right track with that. Like,
yes.
I'm not misremembering this.
Correct.
Okay. Perfect.
Enter claps. On December 30th, 1610, Thurzo arrested Elizabeth and 5 of her servants.
Right.
They said he caught her torturing someone.
So he made that probably up, though.
Yeah, because she was actually having dinner with guests.
Well, she could have been torturing her guests with her Cher impersonation. With
her what?
Cher impersonation.
That was so rude.
And accurate.
No, my Cher impersonation is fantastic.
It's on point.
So even though he claimed he caught Elizabeth red-handed, he actually wrote in a letter to his wife
that, hey, guess what I just did?
She was actually arrested before they found any victims.
Well, how is that?
She was framed. You know it.
Well, that's what it's leaning towards with that comment. Yeah. But let's move on.
Let's continue. Let's see what happens.
Let's dig deeper.
Thurzo then went around saying he found a dead girl and another one being held captive in the castle.
Yeah, they're called servants.
And this made the locals go crazy, and the rumors even crazier.
Did it make the local news?
Probably. I mean, they got town criers, right?
Hear ye.
Exactly.
Hear ye. Anyways.
So here's the thing. They never showed any actual evidence of a bloody scene anywhere at the trial.
Well, that doesn't seem to bode well for the prosecution, but okay.
So Thurzo was either exaggerating.
Yeah.
Or making stuff up about finding dead and wounded girls. But let's be real. Thurzo had a lot to gain.
He sure fucking did.
From Elizabeth's downfall. He could grab her estates, her wealth, even though he was only supposed to be her kid's guardian.
Right.
He could definitely boost his political career with her downfall.
100%. Even though he was supposed to watch after her.
I know.
Pharenic?
Yeah.
Did I say it right?
Yeah.
When he passed, said, hey, look after my bitch.
Yeah.
He's like, will do. Fuck her.
Yeah.
You know, I believe that's exactly how it went.
Yeah.
There's a quote somewhere. Yeah,
there's a quote somewhere.
But it's like, you're supposed to look after this person. He's like, I could really advance my status, my well-being, everything here by fucking her over. And who cares about this dumb bitch?
No one. He don't.
Well, I bet her kids did.
But January 1611.
A good year.
1611. You were there.
I was there.
They went to trial.
Fuck yeah, they did. I was there.
The witness testimonies were a big deal, but most of them were just hearsay. Well, all secondhand stories.
Wasn't everything back then hearsay?
Documentation wasn't so great.
Well, that's my point. It was all fucking hearsay because literally all they had was just like, hey, tell me what you know about this person. And they would coerce him into certain shit as well. Oh,
coercion does happen.
Oh, I mean, it happens today. Could you imagine what it was 400 fucking years ago?
So they said that the victims were mostly girls aged 10 to 14 years old.
That's pretty young.
All from lower noble families who'd been sent to Elizabeth's gynoecium.
That's the word.
Some witnesses said they had relatives who died there.
From cholera?
Mm-hmm. Or that they'd seen signs of torture on bodies in the graveyards.
Right.
Out of all the witnesses, only 3 people, over 300 people were called, right?
And 3 of those 300?
3 of the 300 gave first-hand testimony.
That's like 1%.
Yes. 2 of them were court officials.
Oh.
And they claimed that they saw Elizabeth torturing and killing the girls. One of them mentioned a girl with burns on her hands, but they didn't say how she got them.
Oil in the...
Yeah. Kitchen accident. Hello.
I mean, I have those all the time.
Yeah, you do. You hit your head on everything. You do. You have a big noggin.
And I'm tall.
Yeah, you're very tall. But who knows? They didn't have any proof.
I wish I was taller.
There was... What are you, 6'1"? 6'3". You're 6'3".
Yes.
And you wanted to be 6'5".
I did.
Yeah, so sorry.
I wish I was a little bit taller.
Do you think Xavier is going to be 6'5"?
I hope so. Maybe that's why I was put on this earth.
To give Xavier the...
height of 6'5". That's what... I don't know why, when I was little, I always, for some reason... I want to grow up to be 6'5".
Penny.
Penny. Penny and the Jets. Wait.
Penny.
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 I will throw something at you. Hey, Sheldon.
Okay, let's move on.
That's got to stay in now.
Okay, then there was this girl named Anna. Yeah. Another Anna.
Yes.
Who said Elizabeth hurt her.
Okay.
She got paid off with land and money, and she kept changing her story, so that ain't legit.
So they still gave her the land, even though her story kept fucking changing?
They gave her the land to testify against Elizabeth.
Oh, so what? I would fucking take that shit back. Fuck you, bitch. We told you to do one thing, you did another. No, she did it right. Well, I mean, she kept changing her story. That's my point. Yeah, so she kept changing it, so it's like, no, incriminate this bitch. Yeah. Seriously, that's all we want. Just make shit up. Make it believable. Burp, whatever.
During the trial. Elizabeth's servants threw out a number.
12?
Of victims.
Oh, okay.
Can you guess how many victims? Just guess how many victims that these servants said that Elizabeth had. I wish this was on video.
I wish this whole episode was on video.
I'm so sorry, people.
112.
Higher.
633.
Higher.
1,222.
650.
I was fucking close.
You were close.
Damn it.
As soon as I said higher, I was like, you're going to overshoot. But 650 victims. That's what these servants are saying.
You know what's really funny? Is I was going to go 666, and I really wish she would have made it to that.
Okay.
Worship the goat.
One servant girl said a court official found one of Elizabeth's books.
And what book
like
is
this? Like a journal type of thing.
Okay.
This book was never shown in court.
That doesn't make sense then.
Nope.
Because then they never found it.
It was never official, nothing.
See,
but in this book, it said that the number of victims that she had was around 50 or 60 people. But again, never shown.
So how can you... I know times are different. I understand that. But even back then, how the fuck could you be like, hey, found this book. Take my word on it.
Right.
It's like, fuck you, dude. Show me the fucking evidence.
There's literally no proof.
Yeah, because you could have said anything then. Literally anything. And it's like, oh, by the way, she said she'd give me a handy after the trial, too. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, that's how stupid. That's why I'm saying that, is because that is so fucking dumb.
Stupid. So 2 of Elizabeth's servants that testified confessed.
Oh, scandalous.
But
fucking loyal? Not.
But
yes,
they were tortured into confessing.
See, and
they ripped their fingers out with hot pincers and then burned them alive until they confessed.
Anybody's going to say anything at that. I would say that I fucking helped her with that. If someone did that to me today, and I was born in 1979, I would say I helped her. Fuck. That is so dumb.
So dumb.
Oh, my word. I'm going to have a lot of editing to do with these loud talks. I mean, how fucking stupid is that? No shit, they're going to fucking confess. You're literally burning them alive. Hey, would you like some servant sandwich? I got some fresh on the oven. I mean, for fuck's sake.
Okay, let me rewind. They were burned alive after confession.
What?
My apologies. They were burned alive after they confessed.
Oh.
Their fingers were pulled apart.
You did not make that clear at all. So wait.
Their fingers were pulled apart, torture. They confessed, and then they were burned alive.
Why?
Their job here is done.
Thank you for your service.
Another service.
What the fuck?
Another servant named another Janos, was executed too.
Seriously, how many fucking Janos are there?
But he got a less painful death. He got beheaded.
Thank God.
Because he was a man, probably. But he was thrown in the fire with the women too afterwards. Like, he was already dead, but here's the body in the fire.
That's so degrading to have to be burned with the women. I mean, come on.
Then there was Ursi, who was called a witch, another servant. They burned her alive after she tried to escape. And then finally, Katerina, who was an old washerwoman. Okay. She got life in prison because they found out she was being abused by other servants. So she was in on it, but she was abused by others. But she was
kind of forced.
Well, yes, forced into it.
All this is fucking wild.
And then there is a 6th person, Anna Darvulia.
Another Anna?
No, Darvulia.
Darvulia. Yeah, we go way back.
They said that she was really evil, but she died before they were even arrested.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Because she would have been in for a world of fucking hurt before she died.
But the servants under torture said that Anna taught Elizabeth with witchcraft and torture methods. Of course, you can't trust any of these confessions.
Well, no, because they're under fucking torture.
And then they're like, let's just blame the dead lady because she can't, defend herself.
She can't say anything anymore. No, exactly. That's fucking wild. Wow.
So, eventually, the servants did start blaming Elizabeth herself.
Well, of course, because they have no one left to no one left to blame.
But she tried to clear her name. She even asked a dead girl's mother to say her daughter had died naturally, When the cholera story didn't work, she blamed one of the girls, then all the servants, saying they were too sadistic for her control.
Oh, dear.
But the rumors were already, like, running rampant.
Well, and that's the thing, especially back then. I mean, because God forbid we have straight and narrow media these days. It only tells the truth.
Exactly.
Would never run a narrative that would be sided on one or the other. So clearly back then, not so much the case.
People were saying that she used hot tongs, needles, freezing water to torture girls. Some even
How
said...
did they freeze the water back then?
Fucking ice.
Where'd they get the ice from?
I don't know. There's companies.
The freezer? I mean, where'd they get the frozen
I know
ice?
in the Wild West they had companies that would deliver ice.
The Wild West. Did you know the town I grew up in, actually?
Pewaukee?
Yes, the town I grew up in, Pewaukee. For Milwaukee, back in the day, they actually came out to Pewaukee Lake and did that.
Yeah.
That's where they harvested a lot of big ice blocks.
That's awesome.
And brought them down to Milwaukee. Yeah, I think it was to Milwaukee. But yeah, anyways. Sorry.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So when the cholera story didn't work, she blamed one of the girls, then all the servants. But the rumors were, well, I already said all that, so let's skip that.
I'm not really sure why you're saying it again.
Some said she'd tear their skin off with her teeth and then bathe in their blood for beauty.
And that is the main thing. And that's why she's very associated with vampires.
Yes.
Blood.
And called the Blood Countess.
Because the whole rumor, besides everything else you've gone over, which a lot of it is news to me, so I appreciate this. But yes, the reason why she's called the Blood Countess...
I'm so sorry, folks. He's uncontrollable.
All right, I am so fucking doing a burp track, a Kate burp track. Fuck you for that. Jesus Christ. And again, derailed. No, you're not.
I don't mean to derail you. You know her as the Blood Countess, the one who was bathing in blood.
Yes. Oh, you want me to continue? She was very closely associated with vampires.
Yeah.
Vlad, blah, 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 blah. Because the rumor was she was bathing in virgin nobles' blood, blah, whatever the hell variation you want to come up with to help her stay young and not age, so on. I mean, that's all right. I'm talking. That's going to be on there too. But yeah, that was like the whole lore, rumor, whatever you want to come up with for a word there. But yeah, so it sounds like a lot of just bullshit.
It is. It's framed bullshit.
I mean, could she have been sadistic?
Yes.
Obviously. Was she probably?
Yes.
Probably. Did she do all of these things? Probably not. We don't know.
Or the extent, the numbers? No.
To that degree? Probably not.
No.
Did she do one? Probably. Did she do 650? Probably not. But we don't know. And neither did they.
We don't.
And we'll never know, honestly. So
the servant said that she had like a whole network of people helping her.
Right.
Noble women were accused of luring girls into the castle. And even her daughter, Catalin, was rumored to have like joined in on the torture. Jeez. And they said that Elizabeth had a torture chamber in her dungeons.
And did they find that?
No.
Did they go investigate?
No.
See, just like, hey, I saw this book. You're going to have to take my word for it.
Yes.
Okay.
So, get this. Only the servants went to trial.
I'm blown away.
Elizabeth never went to trial.
How is that possible?
So, they had 2 trials for her accomplices.
Okay, wait. Wasn't Elizabeth on trial and they were talking to the servants?
They were always talking to the servants. The servants were on trial.
Oh.
Elizabeth was never on trial.
Is it because she was a noblewoman?
She was denied her rights as a noblewoman, But her son and sons-in-law made a deal with Thurzo.
The guy gunning for her position.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they wanted to keep like the land in the family's name.
Right.
So they said, let's just send her to a nunnery.
But didn't, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sorry if I'm jumping the gun on this. This was, and I don't think I'm mixing this up. Didn't she basically, lack of a better word, was retired to a castle?
Yes.
And she was walled up in it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So they were going to send her to the nunnery, but then they decided on house arrest at her castle.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So King Matthias wasn't happy about that. He wanted her to stand trial so he could take her land.
Well, he didn't care about anything other than just, hey,
put
her on trial so I can remove this from her.
But he did agree to house arrest.
Well, then he's an idiot.
So Thurzo argued it was the best way to handle a noblewoman like Elizabeth.
Right.
Especially since a public trial and execution could cause a lot of trouble, including for him.
Yep.
Since he was also a Hungarian noble and a Protestant.
Right.
So King Matthias, who was worried about upsetting the already rebellious nobles in Transylvania, agreed to house arrest, but only if the Bathory family canceled his debts, which was from his predecessor.
Which is all he wanted, really.
And Elizabeth's son, Paul,
said, okay.
Okay.
That's wild.
Now, the details of the house arrest are a little fuzzy because some people, as you said, think that she was bricked up in a room.
That's part of the lore, rumor.
Yes,
Obviously,
but she actually had a bodyguard.
Oh, really?
Yes. And she actually did have quite a bit of reign in the castle, free reign in the castle.
Reign, yeah.
But all of this is a little bit speculation, but what documents have survived said that she had a bodyguard, and it just doesn't make sense that she's walled up.
Can I interject onto, again, I never did this in depth on her.
Yeah.
I've read some fictional things about her, so on. One of the things I remember is she was walled up in a tower, like all these nobles, princesses, whatever were back in the day. And it was rumored, and I could be getting exactly wrong from what I read, it was rumored like when they finally went back in there, like she wasn't as decomposed as she should have been for when she died. Stuff along those lines, like the whole like vampire / whatever kind of mythology that went behind it is like she should be dead, but she's not. Or she should be more decomposed, but she's not, kind of thing. That was the thing that I remember from many, 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 many years ago. So that wasn't ever something that came up in my reading. Right. She did end up dying at age 54 on August 21st, 1614, while still under house arrest. Sure. And so she just turned 54. Yeah, there's no like... There was no autopsy. There's nothing that said, like, this is how she died. She just died. Yeah, right. So I never read anything about, like, her decomposed corpse or anything like that. No, of course. That was all probably romanticized, completely fabricated, so on, just building the mystique of this blood countess. That's probably all that ever was. Yeah. I don't remember what it is I read. It doesn't matter. It was probably just a fictitious tale of this actual person, just like Vlad the Impaler, who wasn't really a fucking vampire. Right. But Bram Stoker built him up to be this mythical creature. Same thing with those people with her is like, well, she died, but her body was blah, 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 whatever. I could go on. But it's just, I think it was just all fictitious shit. Yeah. It was fabricated. Correct. Yeah. And it was just based off a real person, is all it is. So because she never went to trial, her kids actually inherited all of her stuff. Well, good for her kids. Yes. So the biggest loss for the Bathory family, besides the bad reputation, was that they never got money back from the king. I mean, it was a lot of money with interest, but that seems pretty minor. That seems, especially because they still made money off of all those lands that they got. Mm-hmm. So it's not like they were struggling. Did they miss out on a big chunk of money? Obviously. Yes. But they had no repercussions.
Nope.
They got to lock mama up.
Yep.
In a castle.
Yep.
With a bodyguard.
Free reign.
Free reign in there. Who knows what she did with the bodyguard? It's speculative. I'm just kidding. But it's like, okay, and we get to keep all this? Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. So after she died, they supposedly moved her body from the local cemetery because the villagers were like, we don't want a serial killer in here. So nobody,
even though that word wasn't coined back then.
No, it wasn't. But nobody knows where she actually ended up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they don't know if she's at her childhood home, if she's buried deep in the church. They have no idea.
Okay.
Excavators, geologists, paleontologists, diggers.
Ooh,
they opened a grave at the castle in 1938, but it was empty.
Sure.
So
see, and shit like that is what leads into the whole vampiric lore and all that. So yeah. So where Elizabeth's body ended up, whether she was actually guilty, we have no idea. So trying to figure out what she did is really like a needle in a haystack. Well, it's all speculation, especially at this point.
The first written account of her story came out over 100 years after she died.
That's wild that it took that long. Especially with all the trials and everything at the end of her life and everything that went on with the torture of her servants. It took 100 fucking years for someone to finally like, you know what? I'm bored.
And then
I'm going to write about this person.
Things were just being made up left and right. They were adding all sorts of crazy myths, blood bathing, the vampires.
That's the big thing.
Yeah. They started in a book by a Jesuit scholar in 1729. It was the first time anyone wrote about Bathory.
Yeah.
And he probably heard the story from superstitious, like, local peasants and just wrote it down without question. Oh, this is just absolute fact.
And again, it's always like, especially for history back then, I always kind of refer to it as the telephone game.
Yes.
You tell one person, they tell another,
yes.
So on, so on, so on, so on. It gets embellished, things get added, things get removed, so on, and it just fucking morphs into this weird-ass fucking story.
And then, in 1742, a Hungarian historian wrote a book based on that first book.
Yeah. Well, see,
about the blood bathing, so the myth just spread like wildfire.
And that's exactly what I was just saying, is the fact that you have no basis for this. You're basing it off of a fictional thing anyways.
Yes.
And then you're fucking compounding that to the nth degree. It's like, well, clearly you're not going to get shit right.
So by the time they finally published the actual records in 1817,
wow,
blood drinking and vampire stories were already set in stone.
Yep.
Even though they weren't in trial records, they did stick around. So
of course,
Elizabeth's bloodthirsty reputation really took off during the vampire scare in the 18th century.
Yeah.
Vampires were a big deal in Eastern European folklore. But during the 17th and 18th centuries, with all the famine, the disease, social problems, people got super scared and started believing in all sorts of superstitions.
Right.
So even though it was supposed to be the age of reason, people were obsessed with vampires.
100%.
And like the Austro-Hungarian government was actually writing official reports about vampire outbreaks.
Isn't that funny?
Like, that should be a story in itself.
Well, it probably is.
Scholars were publishing academic papers on this. Witchcraft, magic, and demons were also popular explanations for all the bad stuff happening back then.
Yep.
If you recall, when we were talking about the Black Plague, there was a comet in the sky, and they're like, that's a bad omen.
Well, just like, Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Dragons are here. But
it was the whole like living corpse thing that the vampires that people really freaked out.
Well, it's just like the idiom, like Saved by the Bell.
Yes.
I told you about, yeah.
Yes. So vampires started showing up in poems and then became main characters in Gothic novels.
Yeah.
There was a writing called The Vampire from 1819 by John William Polidori.
Was it spelled with a Y?
Yes, vampire was spelt with a Y.
Fuck yeah.
That story came from the same place that Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all that macabre stuff in literature pretty much turned Elizabeth into a caricature.
Right.
And the vampire thing led to all sorts of crazy rumors about her even being a lesbian and having satanic connections. I don't know.
That's how I always think about my vampires.
But those stories about cults and demons came from the idea that women weren't supposed to be violent. Like they couldn't even be violent on their own. They had to be influenced by something supernatural.
Or a man.
Yeah. So maybe it's just easier for people to think
for sure.
of her as a monster than to admit like regular women could do these things.
Right. Well, and again, did she do some of these? Probably. Did she do it to the extent that you just went over? Probably not.
So we kind of brought this up earlier, but she was said to have also been inspired. She inspired Bram Stoker's Dracula, along with Vlad the Impaler.
More him.
She had that Transylvania connection and the blood thing, but that's really all that was said. There's no proof that Stoker even knew about her.
No, and he probably didn't, honestly.
But she still had the nickname the Blood Countess and the Countess Dracula.
Yes.
So people today are still kind of obsessed with the Bloody Countess version. Movies are portraying her as a vampire, and Guinness Book of World Records even called her the most prolific female murderer, even though there's barely any evidence.
See, how can you do that when you have no fucking evidence?
Yes.
I mean, that's dumb.
So she's wealthy, she's powerful, she's accused of witchcraft, but the sheer scale of her crimes are just super hard to believe. They're mostly they're made up, right? So we're dealing with a lot of rumors, a lot of hearsay, and it's super tricky. But on one hand, it looks like she was caught in a conspiracy.
Right.
There was zero evidence of torture, of murder. She never got to speak for herself. She was never put on trial.
Which is still kind of wild.
The whole investigation was run by guys who had a lot to gain by framing her.
Yep.
The king wanted his debts gone, Transylvania under his thumb, and Thurzo wanted her money.
Yep.
So her story got lost in all this political drama.
Yeah, which is funny because everyone focused on the fictitious, vampiric, whatever you want to call it, side of it. But yet, literally, in plain sight, all these people are just trying to fuck her over. Whether she did this or not, that's irrelevant at this point. They're just like, we're going to say she did because my debt's gone. I get this land, so and so and so.
Yeah.
It's like, cool.
But it's also hard to ignore that she was probably cruel to her servants.
Oh, sure. But, I mean...
Too many girls died at her place to be of coincidence.
But there was cholera.
So the 650 number obviously is way off. It's probably closer to 50.
So inflated.
That's still a ton of people.
I mean, yeah.
That's still a serial killer, if not like a mass murder. But the whole blood bathing vampire thing, that's more from about her being from Transylvania than lore. Actually being a monster.
It's just lore.
But we are never going to know how many people she actually hurt or killed. So everything is just, the rumors are just fill in the blanks, essentially.
Yep, 100%.
So personally,
yes, was
she a cold-blooded killer? Or was she just a powerful lady with a lot of enemies? Or was she both, I guess?
I was saying a mix of both.
Yeah.
I think she, from the evidence that we have uncovered here today, I clearly don't think she was just a cold-blooded killer. I think she had maybe a little sadistic power trip.
Yeah.
And maybe fucked with some shit. No way in fuck she killed that many people.
Yeah.
50, sure, that's even a stretch. But again, who knows? Not 650.
No.
I don't believe that one bit. And it's funny how her husband comes back from war, teaches us these things, allegedly.
Dravulia.
And then what was the chick's name?
Dravulia.
Oh, that's the chick's name. I'm sorry.
That's okay, yes.
God damn.
Anna Dravulia.
Yes. And then she shows up.
Yes.
Do you find it funny that she's a woman and they blamed her to coerce, corrupt, whatever you want to say, this woman of power?
Yeah.
Husband came back from fucking war. Literally war, where they did unspeakable things, especially back then in the late early 1600s, whatever it was. But yet they blamed a woman. product of the times.
Yeah.
Is it not?
Yeah.
So, no, I don't. I think maybe it's I'm not even saying a 50-50 combination, but maybe 20-20.
More about the enemies rather than
It's very politically motivated.
Yeah.
Because look at what all those people had to gain.
Yeah.
No debt, more land, more power,
more money.
Fuck her.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Crazy.
This is funny. But, I mean, it's me being a fan of Anne Rice and all that. A character, that had that mystique built around her, whether it's true or not, which clearly it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, you could tell. I mean, anyone who just took that for, it's got to be right. She was a vampire and bathed in virgin's blood and all this stuff and whatever. Well, then you're a fucking idiot. Either way. Kate's yawning.
I've been talking a lot. It's a long episode.
It is a long episode.
If you stayed this far,
we appreciate you.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Tara.
Yes, Tara is she's number one fan.
No, she's awesome. I really appreciate her feedback on her episodes, and I like her interaction with us on that, so it's pretty great. So I rather enjoy it.
Yeah, so hopefully you've stayed this far. This was a long episode. I was kind of going back and forth on this, trying to figure out if I wanted to do a two-parter or a single, and
or cut some out.
Or even just like scrap it for another time.
Well, I'm glad you didn't cut anything out, though, because I feel like that's a disservice to the story.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
I understand it's a longer episode, and that's fine. And to everyone who made it this far, huzzah.
Thank you.
Welp.
I suppose.
All right, buffoons. That's it for today's episode.
Buckle up because we've got another historical adventure waiting for you next time. Feeling hungry for more buffoonery? Or maybe you have a burning question or a wild historical theory for us to explore?
Hit us up on social media. We're History Buffoons Podcast on YouTube, X, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also email us at historybuffoonspodcast@gmail.com. We are Bradley and Kate. Music by Corey Akers.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts and turn those notifications on to stay in the loop.
Until next time, stay curious and don't forget to rate and review us.
Remember, the buffoonery never stops.